Hi everyone, this is Adam with the Modern Collective with another Tip Tuesday, our weekly blog feature on the Modern Collective blog, where we share tips with you to give you helpful tips, pointers that you can use in your business. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about text styling and create the effect of the text you're seeing on your screen right now. We receive questions from fellow photographers and customers at the Modern Collective shop that ask how we create this effect and how you can create this on your own. Many people think it's a special font that we're using, and it's really not. And I'm going to take you step by step to create this on your own so you can use it in your marketing pieces and products for your clients. So I'm going to hide this, and we're going to start at the very beginning, and we're going to work our way back to this at the end to show you how you can do this on your own. So to start with, I'm just going to hide this, and we're going to grab the text tool. Most of you have used the text tool in Photoshop, and we're going to start with that base color. So I'm going to use kind of a yellow color here to stick with the Modern Collective brand. And you can really choose any color you want. You can change this later, so don't feel like you have to get it perfect right away. But we just want to start by typing our word. And I'm going to type hello. And this is way too large, so I'm going to shrink this down a little bit just to fit it within our document. I'm going to center this, move it to the middle so you guys can see this. So we have simple text. I'm going to start off by saying that with this type treatment, it's really important to pick a font that is really simple in styling. Cursive fonts or any type of script fonts probably aren't the best choice for this because it just gets too busy. You want something that's really simple, an uppercase font like this, a title case, where the font shapes themselves are pretty simple is best for this. We're using the font Nevis for today's tutorial, and I'll put a link to download that font so you guys can make this exact same thing when you try it as well. So let's start with just typing out a word, any word, and this is going to be the base color to creating that effect that we just showed you. So from here, we're going to duplicate this layer so we have another layer to create the actual outline that's going to overlay it. So for shortcuts, you can use a Command J or Control J on a PC, or you can just grab the layer and drag it down to the new layer icon in your layers palette. But I'd already copied this, so as you can see here, we have two of the exact same layers here, and we're going to work on this top one here to create an outline. To create that outline that's going to overlay this colored fill, we need to go into the effects panel, which is at the bottom of your layers palette. It's the FX little button, and you're going to choose stroke. It's at the very bottom of that list. When you click stroke, it's going to give you a few options here. If you've watched our past Tip Tuesdays, we've used this in a few of them already, but I'm just going to do an overview of what's in this panel and the options that you have in this menu. So to start with, you can choose your stroke size, and you can see already that this has applied a stroke to that top hello layer. If you're not seeing those changes already, it's probably because you don't have the preview button clicked here. So to get it active and to show what it's doing, just click the preview button and it will apply that stroke. We can choose a size. I want it to be fairly thin. Obviously this is way too thick. We're going to go with more of a thin stroke on this just for today's demo, and you can do it to your liking. The next option you have is the position of that stroke. You have three options here. You have outside, inside, and center. I tend to use inside because it gives us nice crisp corners on the font and on the text. You can choose center, which is going to put it evenly in the inside and outside, or you can choose outside, which is going to round the corners and it's going to put it on the outside of your shape. So I'm going to switch back to inside to give it a nice hard corner on these. And then you have a few other options here as well. You have a blending mode, which I typically use the normal mode for this type of effect, and you can choose the opacity here. We're going to keep it at 100%. Next, you get to choose your color, and this is where you're going to end up choosing the color for your stroke that's going to outline your color fill. So instead of using a solid black, I want something a little bit softer, and I want to go with a medium to dark gray here. Okay, so I'm going to click OK to activate that. So as you can see with those options, we adjusted the size of the stroke. You can adjust the position of the stroke, the color, the opacity, and once you have it to the liking you prefer, or to your liking, you can just click OK and it will apply that stroke. I'm going to thin this out a little bit more and click OK. So here we have the layer that's just the solid text layer like normal, and then we have a layer that is the solid color fill, the yellow, with a stroke applied. And in your layers palette you can see that stroke. For any reason, if you want to change the color of that stroke or you chose an option that you don't like, you can go over to your layers palette and just double click on stroke here, and we'll bring up that options box once again, and you can change the color, you can change the size, and all the options that you've had before. I'm going to click OK, and we need to make this layer transparent. We don't want this yellow immediately in this layer. We want just the stroke around these shapes. To do that, we just need to go over to the layers palette again, make sure this layer is active, our stroke layer is active, and we're going to go up to the fill option here. You've probably used the opacity in your layers palette. You may have never touched the fill option here, but the fill is going to remove or change the opacity of just the fill itself, and it will leave the stroke solid. So we're going to go into the fill, and we're going to remove the fill all the way down to 0%. If you see here, it changed the fill, it completely made that transparent, and it's just leaving the stroke. If we were to use the opacity, which is completely different, the opacity is going to change the opacity of that entire object. So for demonstration, I'm going to put this all the way back to 100%, and I'm going to take down the opacity, and you can see it completely disappears. So that's not what we want today. We want to go all the way up to 100% with the opacity, but we want to take the fill all the way down to 0. So with that, we have two layers here. We have our outline layer and we have our fill layer. They are now completely separate from each other. So to get the effect, we just simply need to drag this layer on top of the fill layer, and we can just skew it using our arrow keys until we get the effect that we like. So you can move it quite a ways. I find it's best to keep it fairly close to make it legible, but you get that same effect, and in here we can go in and change the actual fill color to, let's say, like a green color, and you can play around with those layers as well. So it's really simple and easy to do. You start with just typing your text as normal, you duplicate that layer, you add your stroke, and you bring down the fill, and you play around with it until you feel like you have the style that you would like. So we hope you found this tip useful today. It's a fun way to use text and to make it a little bit more dynamic and show some depth to your text. And we hope you can use it in your marketing pieces and your templates and different products that you create for your clients. We'd love to see what you create using this tip from today's Tip Tuesday. Feel free to share it on our Facebook page. Pin this tutorial to Pinterest if you find it useful. We would appreciate that. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comments below, and we'd be happy to answer those for you. So enjoy this and check back next week for another Tip Tuesday. Have a great day.